Hello, happy Christmas and welcome to the Football Social Daily 2019 Awards. I'm Jim Salverson. In the studio with me today, we've got Steve McNaughton over there.
Hey, Jim.
Joe McGrath over there.
Hello.
Ant McGinley right here.
Making a triple muck.
What?
There's a triple McNaughton, McGrath.
Oh, I
McGinley.
see. I
Like
thought it was
Nicely
weird
done.
phrase.
Nicely done.
You'll notice if you're watching on the video that's online that Ant is wearing a full three-piece suit because I told him that we were all dressing up for the awards today. Right, let me explain how the Football Social 2019 Awards is going to work. This is a little look back over the year in football, the good, the bad and the ugly. We're going to run rule over everything that's happened. We're going to look forward to 2020 as well. There's a load of different categories for this, and each of you are going to make a nomination in each category and argue why your nomination should pick up the award. I will then act as the judge. I will pick a winner for each category, and whoever gets the most nominations getting the gong through to the final, then they win the overall competition. All right?
What's the prize?
There's no prize, Steve.
Okay.
It's like
Massively
it's like finishing
Pride.
fourth. Pride is the prize. So the first
I wore a suit for can I at least do a speech?
If you win, you can do a
Okay.
speech. That's the prize.
Right.
All right, so we're going to kick off with the very first award of 2019, and it is the Fair Play Award. And I'm not meaning a lack of fouls on the pitch. I'm meaning the person that's made you sit back and go, fair play, lad, fair play. So who is your 2019 nomination for the Fair Play Awards? Steve McNaughton, you can go first.
Just going back to the comments made before we come on air about being prepared for this. It might not surprise a lot of people, but my nomination is Marcelo Baszler.
It does surprise me because it's not Jurgen Klopp, and I thought every single nomination on this would be some kind of Liverpool basis from you.
Well, when I've sent my nominations into you before, I'm pretty sure there's some surprising stuff in there. But we'll start with this, and it goes back to the game that they had with Aston Villa last season, where there was a lead taken when Villa had a player down and the ball wasn't kicked out of play. And remarkably, what Bielsa has done is he's ordered his Leeds United team to let Villa score and equalise, and he was pretty adamant that that's what should have happened. And I just thought he gets a lot of stick, that guy, for being a bit wacky, and obviously he's good at spying, and he's got a decent network of people out there that he can rely on. But I just think that was a superb gesture, and it's something he didn't really need to do, but in the interest of sport and for the greater good of the game. Got that cliche, Bell? And I thought it was brilliant, and massive round of applause for Bielsa for instructing his Leeds United team to do that.
Bielsa is a good shout, and I thought you were going to nominate him purely for the fact he is clearly a bit of a footballing bastard.
Yeah,
and I
sits
thought
on hot coffee.
I thought that Spygate thing was going to be the reason for his nomination, which I think is equally as good a shout, because it wasn't just the fact he got caught spying on, was it Derby County?
It was Derby
He got
County,
caught spying on, but it was the fact that afterwards he went, yeah, I do it all the time, and just showed a PowerPoint presentation to back up why he did it. It's like, I thought the absolutely balls on that man is brilliant.
It was the equivalent of being caught in bed with someone else by your girlfriend and then sitting her down and explaining why it happened and how it happened, right? And then just saying, so what's the problem?
And then getting up and shaking hands and walking off.
Good game.
But yeah, just superb. And I think, in a world where teams will do anything to get an advantage over an opponent, I think that was really refreshing to do, and I think that's something that won all manner of awards, and quite rightly so. And I think that would be my nomination. So I don't know how you guys feel about it.
And actually quite reminiscent of a man who actually won the Fair Play Award a fair few years back. I think it was 1994. Paolo Di Canio picked it up because there was a player injured on the pitch. I think it was against Leeds, actually.
It was against
weirdly
Everton,
enough.
I think.
Everton, was it? And the ball got crossed in, and instead of heading it in like he should have done, like a proper footballer, he caught it and then was like, he's injured, he's down.
It's the same Paolo Di Canio that basically assaulted the referee and pushed him across
Have
the
you
pitch.
seen, I know there's a couple of years between us, not many years, but have you seen that video of Paul Alcock, I believe his name was, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Getting pushed over by Paul. You won't, because you wouldn't have been born then.
Yes.
But, it wasn't
search
really,
Paul
it just
Alcock
was
and
it.
see
The
what I
best
find.
thing about that video is it's the perfect weight of push. We often talk about the perfect weight of pass, but he manages to push him so that the referee staggers back for about 7 seconds before he actually
waving
falls.
his arms around as well. Right, so Bielsa is Steve's nomination. Joe McGrath.
I'm going to go with, and as soon as you said what is your fair play nomination, I thought of this man straight away. I'll go with Jamie Vardy, just his whole 2019. So it's not necessarily a moment, it's necessarily Jamie Vardy as a player, a fair play player. Because I think Jamie Vardy, has been a consistent striker throughout, but his 2019 season, has kicked off in style. The guy's still doing it, and why I think it's unbelievable is because he has to have Rebecca Vardy as his wife. After all that's still going on, after the incredible tweet from Colleen Rooney, there's a lot on that. There's a lot on that man's
You
plate.
can't miss this story, Steve.
There's
You
a
must
lot-
know what
you not
Joe's
see-
talking about.
I
know what you're talking about,
I
don't
just
you?
think that Joe might have missed the point.
I'm all on board with this.
Fair play. It literally says in the email, what have you seen this year? And just thought, fair play. And I've seen Jamie Vardy go on that pitch, bag 16 goals and 3 assists for Leicester already. So he's only 10 goals off his all-time top scoring season for Leicester. And that is something that was when they won the league. So I'm thinking, Jamie Vardy, fair play.
It's a solid nomination, and the reason I
I'm voting
like
for
it,
that.
the reason I like it as a nomination is Jamie Vardy's a player that I've looked at for the last 3 years and gone, he's gonna go back to being rubbish any
Yes.
minute now. He's gonna
Playing for non-eaten.
Yeah, he's like he drinks Blue Wicked. He chews tobacco. He's not a professional.
His celebrations
footballer
when
in
he
any way.
scores are bizarre, like when he did the bird.
Yeah.
Fair play. Fair play.
Fair play.
Not go up the other end and
play.
score a goal. That's a load of shit. Fair
it's
play,
not.
Jamie Vardy,
Well-
for being who he is.
Do you know what I do? I actually blame Jim for this. I think Jim's at fault for our disagreement here. I don't think when he's briefed us before, he's been quite clear enough about what he expects.
Right, and who's your final
here we go.
nomination in the fair play category?
So I'm going to look at the Premier League as a whole, and I'm going to nominate the man who's just taken the role as chief executive of the Premier League,
Hang on,
Richard Masters.
I was going to say, before you say his name, I want to know if anyone else in the room knows his
Never
name.
heard
'cause
of
I
him.
wouldn't have got it.
So basically, Richard Masters was put in temporary charge. So Richard Scudamore stepped down, and there was all that controversy about, despite being on $250,000 a year, then they were like, oh, we want to give him a nice thank you for his 20 years hard work, because he's only earned, like millions of pounds off us. Every club in the Premier League has to pay a certain amount of money towards this.
£500,000.
£500,000 over 3 years. So the clubs that got relegated last season from the Premier League, they'll continue to pay whatever happens when they come back up on that over the next 2 years towards Richard Scudamore's golden handshake.
Why is that for?
Just because it was, I don't know. Cause,
No, I think the next bit's the fair play bit.
yeah. So the fair play bit is this. So
fair play to him for getting £500,000.
Yeah.
Every Premier League.
But that was-
How'd you do that?
now that was last year. So unfortunately, Scudamore doesn't qualify for it. Now they announced Susanna Dinage was it, that was going to come in and take over that role. However, she stepped down even before she'd started the role. And so they had a bit of a panic, a bit like we're seeing at some clubs at the minute where they didn't have a ready-made replacement. So they got Richard Masters to step into temporary control. Just said, can you just run things for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, fine. I'll run things. Don't worry about it. I'll just look after everything until you get it sorted. So then they went out and they looked for it. And you had this other chap that came in. I'm not sure if I can even say why he stepped down from the job.
Nope, you can't.
Yeah. Okay. So just say Dave. I think I can say that. So they offered Dave the job. They announced the job. Dave was going to take the job. And again, before he started the job, he didn't get it. And so what's happened now is Richard Masters, the man who was in temporary charge, has been given the job. And I'm thinking, you know what? I reckon what's happened here is he's played a blinder, right? So fair play to him, because he's done like some kind of Game of Thrones politics. And he suddenly found himself and he's gone, hey, I've got the big job here. It's like, what? $250,000 a year plus 5 million when I leave. I was like, I'm having this. I'm going to keep this as long as I can. And so I wonder if he's just used a little bit of tricks and negotiation to just manipulate things so that he stays in the job. Whatever way it's worked out, I'm not making accusations, but whatever way it's worked out, fair play to him for stepping in to lend a hand and earning a nice little crust.
I see what you're suggesting. It's kind of like when you step in as maternity cover for someone and then spend every day on the phone to the person you're covering going, are you enjoying being a mum? It must be so nice having all that time off. You just take a little bit longer off.
Yeah.
It's that kind of scenario. Do you know what? I think out of those 3 nominations, I'm going to give it to Joe with Jamie Vardy.
It's
think
true, mate.
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Ant's suggestion is full of legal implications that we can't go into. And I think Joe just described Jamie Vardy very well. And just for having Rebecca Vardy as a wife, he deserves some recognition for putting up with that. So fair play to him. So Joe
I'm
gets
outraged.
the early lead.
Sorry, Marcello, we tried.
Marcello, just whatever.
Right, second award of 2019 is the Under the Radar Award. So this is someone who you think hasn't quite got the recognition they deserved in 2019. Steve started last time, so Joe, you can kick this one off.
I'm going to go with my Under the Radar Award 2019. Chris Smalling. Sit yourself down, everyone. Chris Smalling,
Already sat down.
who's gone to Roma and done actually pretty well. for Roma. It's side that you looked at Chris Smalling in the United squad. He didn't really have a place, or his place was under a lot of tarnish by the fans. And he did actually want to play for Manchester United, but the board and an offer coming in from Roma meant that he went out there and he started playing for an Italian club. And all of his life, he's known the Premier League. If he's done well or not, who knows? But now he's gone to Serie A.
I know. He's not.
Yeah, and it was just some little stats around here. Up to October the 29th, he had 100% of his tackles were won in both Serie A and the Europa League. This is stats that I've read in this sort of preparation for this show. I just think that Chris Smalling has gone under the radar as a solid centre-back for Roma. They're doing pretty well in La Liga, not up to the heights of Juventus, unfortunately, and they probably will win the title. But to go to another country and do pretty well for them, and serve some people wrong. Sometimes I've seen United fans actually tweet that they want him back in the Manchester United squad. So he's gone under the radar. Fair play to him for still doing that. But that's my one, Chris Smalling.
Is it a lack of recognition for Chris Smalling, or a lack of recognition of how bad United were in the first
bit of both,
half of
Jim.
2019?
Bit of both. I think a lack of recognition for how bad United were, but they were made a bit worse by some Chris Smalling performances. He's gone to Serie A, and who knows, he could get himself back into the United squad.
I have to say, it's a decent nomination, but considering you have to look at 2019 as a whole, and he's only really performed for the second half of 19, I think you've left a bit of an open goal for Ant, who's going to make his nomination next.
Oh, I've just done kind of exactly the same thing, though. So I'm talking about a man who's only really come to a lot of people's attention in May of this year, when he was given his first job in the Premier League. But he's somebody that a lot of people will have known about, especially if you're an Arsenal fan, going back a few years, and that is Brighton and Hove Albion manager Graham Potter. Right now, he was managing Östersund, which is the correct way to pronounce it. And you may remember a few years ago, he beat Arsenal in the Europa League with that Swedish minnow team, when Arsenal were actually quite difficult to beat. It's not like beating them now, although he has just beat them a few weeks ago with his Brighton.
Arsenal haven't been difficult to beat since the turn of the decade, the 2000s.
92.
Yeah.
He did beat them when they had Wenger in charge, rather than the Muppets they've had in since. Yeah, true. Now, what I really like about what Potter's done at Brighton is he's actually made them a team that people are really thinking about when they're going to play against. They're playing some really good football, some really interesting stuff. Whether he went to Old Trafford recently, Joe, I think you were at the game, and he played two up front against United. Now, it didn't work out there, but I like that. I like the style, I like the confidence that he's got. And what he's doing there is he's bringing players that haven't really performed at other clubs. And whatever he's doing, wait, you'll see this coming. Whatever he's doing, he's bringing these players together, right? And he's getting the best out of them. He's weaving some magic. That's right. Potter is weaving magic. And this is why I think he's gone under the radar, is because they're not making enough of that comparison. If I was in charge of the fan club at Brighton, I would be making sure that all the home fans were coming, not just in the shirts, but having Hogwarts capes over, those little John Lennon glasses on as well, and celebrating the wizard that is Graham Potter.
I struggle with this because I'm not sure I can take Graham Potter particularly seriously. There's a comedian called Rob Rouse who says a brilliant way to judge someone's character is imagining them holding a drink of some kind, and whatever drink you imagine them holding that kind of fits, that's how you reflect their character. And Graham Potter for me is holding a can of Skull. He's just kind of standing there.
He doesn't look old enough to hold a can of Skull.
Drinking a can of Skull, so I'm not sure it quite counts. And also, you clearly suggested Potter just so you get the Harry Potter joke in there.
It did.
Well, Steve, it's all for you. You
go.
can just tuck this one away. Under the radar nomination 2019.
Wave his magic wand there.
Okay, thank you, Joe. My under the radar nomination is for Chris Wilder and Sheffield United. I think first and foremost, let me qualify this by saying not only did they achieve automatic promotion from a very, very difficult league to get out of in April, May this year. I don't know the exact week of the season that they did it, but it was towards the end. He's come up and he's made some shrewd signings. He's managed to get Henderson back in from Man United in goal, who I really rate as a goalkeeper. And they've took the Premiership by storm, and they've been a breath of fresh air. You know, Sheffield United, you're in for the game when you go and play them, and they've had some notable results this season, and they found themselves seventh in the table. On a modest budget, with a British manager, and they've won more games than they've lost in the Premier League, which I think is a great achievement for them. And I think, viva Sheffield United. I think, well done, lads. It's a privilege to have you with us, and I hope you get more results. And I mean, it'd be out of this world if they could get into the Europa League, but we shall see what happens. But I think Chris Wilder and Sheffield United for me.
It's a great shout, and not just because they've done well in the Premier League, but because everyone, myself included, wrote them off at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely.
Everyone said
I didn't. I did not.
What did you say?
I predicted they were going to come top 10.
But you also predicted Billy Sharp would be their top goal scorer, I think, didn't you?
Well, if Billy Sharp gets 12 goals, I think he'll have got 100 goals for Sheffield United. Still possible.
Not
It's
this
not their
season.
top
It's
goal
not.
scorer. I also think there's something in that Chris Wilder's underrated, because still you hear pundits saying that Sheffield United play agricultural, basic football, like in the guise of Burnley, whereas anyone who's actually seen them play at any point knows they play really good, attacking, slick football.
But what's quite interesting for me is that there's a high-profile appointment coming to Merseyside in the next day or so, as we know with Carlo Ancelotti. Now, Everton are 16th in the table. Why not look at someone like Chris Wilder, to go in and do a job for him? He's done it on a modest budget, small club. And, he's not going to go out and kind of spank 50 million, 60 million quid on players, I don't think. He's just going to get a group of players, motivate them, and get them to achieve what people don't think is possible. So I think, for me, I think he's a shoo-in for it, and I'd be annoyed if one of these two reprobates win this round.
I think there was a creeping inevitability to that one, like Liverpool's march to the Premier League title this year, that Steve has got that one. Under the Radar award goes to Chris Wilder of Sheffield United, and that's a point to Steve.
You're welcome, Chris. You're welcome.
Looks like he wore this suit for nothing.
Right, next, flop of the year, 2019. It's your turn to go first on this one, Ant.
I've got something. Do I have to just do one? Because I've got like 7 I could do here.
Yeah,
Jesus.
So I could do whole teams in Spurs and Watford. I could do a player in Sanchez. And I could even do the whole of VAR. But I'm going to go for Marco Silva. And there's 2 reasons I'm going to go for Marco Silva of Everton. First of all this is one prediction I did get wrong. At the start of the season, I predicted Everton were going to break into the top 6.
Yep.
And I looked at the players that they already had, the players that they brought in, and I fell into that trap that everyone's done for the last 3 seasons and gone, Everton's had the best transfer window. Yeah. They bought some great players. They bought some great talent in there. There was other talent like Andre Gomez. Obviously, he's had that unfortunate injury. But even before that injury, just things did not gel. You've got England's #1 goalkeeper who still looks really dodgy at the moment.
Because of his little arms.
Yeah. Weird save the other night as well. And I just didn't get it. Like Moise Keane, I was really excited about him coming in as a player. Then Silva didn't seem to play him at all. Then Ferguson played him, put him on for like 10, 12 minutes, and then took him off.
Which was disgusting.
Yeah, and this is after as well. I don't know if you saw the video. When they signed Moise Keane, his mum came over because I think he wasn't old enough to sign the contract, something like that, and they presented his mum with an Everton shirt as well.
They did a big speech going, we're going to look after him now.
We're going to look after him. Obviously, they mean I'm going to look after you in that threatening sense. So that was the first reason that Silva was a bit of a flop, because he just didn't perform. But the second reason why he was a bit of a flop was I was convinced that this guy had something over everyone and was unsackable. Because when you actually start to look at his record, everybody seems to want him, but then he doesn't seem to perform. Like he came in at Hull, and I think we talked about it on the podcast before, like he got them relegated well, if there's such a thing. He did a good performance. He went to Watford, underperformed there, and then he came to Everton as well, and it just seemed to be that Everton could go out and lose every week and lose badly and underperform and underperform and underperform, and nobody knew what they were talking about, what they were playing like, and he just wouldn't go. And I was convinced that he had something on everybody, to the point where Everton could have got relegated, they could have got kicked out of the city of Liverpool, the club could have gone out of business, and he would have still been in the job. So he managed to even flop at being a flop and getting sacked as well. So Marco Silva is my nomination.
It's a great shout.
I think it's a very strong shout, that answer.
The thing that concerns me about it slightly is, you might remember when Marco Silva was appointed by Hull, there was a great big rant from Paul Merson on Sky Sports, who said, who's this guy? What's he done? What's he won? I could win the league with Olympiacos. Why don't they go for a young British manager? And kind of what's happened since then, and him getting sacked by Everton and sacked by Watford and getting Hull relegated, has kind of proved Paul Merson's point. And I'm not sure I want to live in a world where Paul Merson's right.
Well, he's been quite vocal about Arteta, hasn't he?
Yeah, so Joe, you can go next on this one. Flop of the year 2019.
My flop of 2019 is Virgil van Dijk's Ballon d'Or chances. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with this. All set to be the next Premier League player to win the Ballon d'Or since Ronaldo did it under Sir Alex Ferguson when we won the Champions League. Unfortunately, pipped to the post by Messi, who was nowhere near a Champions League trophy. I mean, thanks to Virgil van Dijk, I suppose. It's just another one of those things. It was the build-up was fantastic for it. It was he's going to win. You know, what could you do? The stats are flying about the place about he's the second coming, but in terms of the ceremony itself, there's only going to be one man. It was his 6th Ballon d'Or. And unfortunately, Virgil van Dijk might have to wait another year or so to win.
No, that was his chance to win it, I think.
So the flop there for me was the build-up. There was a lot of United City fans wondering how they were going to cope if Virgil van Dijk did win the league, win the Ballon d'Or, and sadly he didn't make it. So that's what
it was only 6 points in it as well, wasn't there?
I know.
You know, it was extremely close, but I think that was his chance to do it. I think I have a whole view on the fact that if you look at the kind of draws that Barcelona got in the Champions League this year, versus kind of Real Madrid for yourselves and Atletico for Liverpool. I think it was let's not upset little Lionel, and let's kind of make sure that he wins that award. And I just don't buy it. I think that if you're from another club outside of Real Madrid and Barcelona, I think you're going to struggle because I think if Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus doesn't get a proper look in, I think it says something. I think the whole thing is a farce.
Although, who would you rather have in your team, Messi or Van Dijk?
I think a lot of teams would rather have Van Dijk
I'd
because
rather
build
have
up
Van
that
Dijk
defence.
in the Liverpool team, yeah. Absolutely.
You're talking absolutely out your arse there. Out your backside.
Not
Man's
really.
got over 50 goals for Barcelona.
Yeah, but look,
a team that I'd rather, so a team of United who say your defence is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
You can see
Yeah.
3 to Sheffield, you see a couple at home to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
I'd still put that man up front
Right.
because I don't give a shit who's at the back. You need to score goals to win games.
Good job you're not relevant anymore.
Also, as well, the thing is, look at Van Dijk's got another 7 years playing probably.
It's 25, isn't it?
Yeah, another 7 years at a high level. Whereas Messi's coming towards the end of his career. You may be going to get another 18 months out of him.
Are you both going to get another 18? Well, you're going to get about 3 to 4
One-
years out of
one
it.
I think,
good tackle
no, I
and
don't
he's
think
finished.
I don't think he's the specimen that Ronaldo is he?
No.
To be fair.
Different
But
player.
I just think that for me it'd be Van Dijk because we've got Salah, Mane, and Firmino up top, and I think we're set.
I think the difference for me is Messi is a genius on the pitch, but Van Dijk makes the players around him better.
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say Van Dijk's a genius in the bedroom. For some reason, I thought that's what
Troy Deeney says he smells very nice.
This is a very weird Christmas special awards.
I have to say, Joe, though, it's a bit of an indictment of where Manchester United are compared to Liverpool, when the only thing you have over Liverpool in a season is the fact that one of their players didn't win the Ballon d'Or.
Well,
Well, technically they did because Alisson got goalkeeper, didn't he?
oh yeah.
Right, Steve, final nomination for Flop of the Year.
So I sent you 2 before, and the one that I'm going to go with.
One's going to win and the other one won't, basically. I'll tell you that much.
and
If you go for the
so
one I think you're going to
I'm
win.
going to go for VAR being the flop of the year because it is
Correct
an
answer.
absolute disaster. Every single weekend and midweek we're seeing incidents that are questionable. We're seeing the process being littered with confusion. We're seeing referees instructed some weekends to go easy on it, and we're seeing referees not consult the screen at the side of the pitch when calls are very tight, I think. And also when I add into that, and I'm trying to summarise as quickly as I can with it, because obviously I think we could do a series of 10 podcasts on VAR, couldn't we?
Yeah.
It seems to be getting longer as well to get to the decisions. We've had a couple of weeks where it was 4 minutes at the weekend.
Yeah, and there was also one where the game had kicked off again before they announced the results, almost as
Yeah.
if they just got bored with it and just let's just play on this. We're just going to ignore it now.
We'll work out the score at the end.
And I think that the whole thing is farcical. I think some of the managers are clamouring for change to it already, and I just think we implemented it too quickly because I don't think we thoroughly tested it enough and got all the kinks out of the way, if you like. If you look at the cricket model, the rugby league model, they've got it to a T, the way that they do it, and it's nice and quick, and they're not messing about word. It just feels really clunky. It's not massively wanted by across the board, and I just think it's been even though we're on the 17th of December, I think it's probably been a season of failure for it unless something dramatically happens. So for me, I'm not a fan. I don't think it's welcome in the game. I think it's littered with problems, and I don't see any end to him on the horizon.
It's been absolutely shambolic. And what gets me about VAR this season is I almost would have admired it more if the Premier League had gone, implemented it on day one, and then not made any changes as it developed through the season, and not kind of made changes to the way the referees handled it or the way they reviewed decisions, but they kind of altered it on a week-by-week basis and given new criteria and new instructions to referees, which you wouldn't do in any other aspect of the game. You wouldn't go, well, we're going to try this thing where we have even bigger goals on day one, and then we're going to make them little five-a-side goals on the match day 2. It just wouldn't happen in any other scenario. But they're just chopping and changing with VAR, which just proves the point. It's not right, and it should have never happened in the first place.
And you've got, I believe that they're in Stockport, aren't they, the guys that are looking at on the screen, aren't they?
Stockley Park, not
Stockley
Stockport.
Park. Whatever, you know what I mean? You know, when
If they were in Stockport, I'd go over right now and have a word.
You know, when you
Stop
kind of
the A6.
zone in and out of conversation. But, you know, if I take an incident at the weekend, if you look at, like, Lindelof's own goal at the weekend against you, how's that not a foul on De Gea? You know, the guy's got his arm kind of in his face. And
the thing is, I think that there's the generational thing that's going on as well, because you go back 15, 20 years, there's no way that's a foul. Right?
No, I
so
agree.
the game is
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it depends who's looking. If we could hear that communication.
What if you've got a fetus watching?
But no, my big problem with it is it really reminds me of when I first went and started going to games. And my first game was 1990-91. I went to see, at Main Road, City against Aston Villa. And I came out of the game and I was like, that's the best game of football. I can't believe we won 5-2. And we'd won 2-0, right? And it was because it was the first time I'd been to a game without commentary and without the score and without replays. So every time I saw the ball go in the net for whatever reason, I assumed it was a goal. And obviously there's noise going around. You don't quite see what's going on. You're jumping around. And I think that's kind of happening now in the sense that you, as a fan going to the game, even as journalists, because a couple of us have been lucky enough to go to the games as journalists, you get that little screen. You're still not seeing what they're seeing in Stockley Park as well. You're not sure what's going on. You compare it to other sports that have influenced it. Like we talked about the cricket. We all saw that in in the World Cup this summer. Also, you look at how they do it in the Super Bowl. And I think one thing that should be done, and I don't understand why it's not being done, is the referees need to be mic'd up and just talk to us. Just tell us what's going on.
Did you hear that? Did you see that game in the Australian Hyundai League where the referee was mic'd up?
Yeah.
It was fascinating. It was fascinating. Absolutely brilliant. So I'd be a big advocate of that. I think that's a great show.
It did something similar with Brad Friedel being mic'd up in an MLS game.
Oh,
as
it was,
well,
it was the end of season Superstars game, wasn't
Oh,
it?
It was
the All Stars,
insightful.
yeah.
The best thing about the Stockley Park issue, by the way, the fact that the VAR guys are in Stockley Park is at least 45 minutes away from any Premier League ground, and that's by car. So you have to get in a car and drive to it. It will take you 45 minutes. There's a rule that if a player leaves the pitch of play and goes to remonstrate with the VAR officials in Stockley Park, it's an automatic ban. It's a red card. So for that to be in place, someone would have to leave the match, get to the car park, get in a car, drive to Stockley Park and have a go at the officials.
Get the
and then they
Nissan
get
Sunny
the car.
started up.
It just kind of shows how little thought through
Yeah.
this has been currently. I think there's no argument. It's got to be VAR that Hayes becomes the flop of the year. Right, we're going to take a little break. Steve's got 2 points. Joe has 1 point. Ant is yet to get off the mark.
Good second half.
But there's plenty of time. We've still got Hero of the Year to come, Best Moment to come, and a prediction for 2019. And we'll do it next on the Football Social Daily 2019 Awards. Welcome back to Football Social Daily's 2019 Awards. The scores are close. Steve has 2 points. Joe has 1 point.
Yes.
Ant McGinley has 0 points. He's very much the Watford of today's awards ceremony. We've got a few more awards to come. Everyone's making their nominations. We pick a winner and that individual gets the point. It's a nice positive one yet for 2019, and it is the Hero of the Year. Steve, you can kick this one off.
With pleasure, Jim. I'm going to go, and this might surprise some of our regular listeners to the podcast who know my views and how passionate I am about my team. So, you know, I'm not going to say Jurgen Klopp, which I should do. I'm going to say Frank Lampard for the simple reason that he's made Chelsea likeable again. You know, and he's made
the impossible task.
he's made us take an interest in Chelsea, and in some occasions actually root for them, you know, on the pitch, because he's gone in. He's not been able to sign any players due to the misdemeanors of previous management and people in power at Stamford Bridge, and he's got on with it. He's got these young lads in like Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham, and Reece James. Is his name?
I was to say Reece Mogg then. But
No,
that's
that's completely different.
Not every
Again, that's a different podcast. We will go into the political daily in 2020. I can be real. I'm only joking, by the way. So yeah, Frank Lampard, Super Frank. He's got on playing good football. Yes, they're on a bit of a sticky patch at the minute. But I think they've lost the last 3 games, haven't they, or 4 games. But he's galvanised the young squad. He's been adventurous. He's been bold. He's played good football, and they've had some tremendous results across the course of the season so far as well. And has currently sat 4th in the Premier League, which I think no one, bar this guy, predicted it back in August. And I think, well done, Frank. Superb. Really refreshing that a young British manager has come from Derby County to one of the biggest clubs in European football and done a job. So for me, Frank Lampard.
I agree with you. I think it's such a difficult task to make me not hate Chelsea.
Yeah.
And he's kind of done that a little bit. I'd be interested to see what happens in January.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like with the previous award we talked about, he's only come in to Chelsea in the summer.
But he did a decent job at Derby before that as well.
Yeah, we didn't mention that in his thing.
mention
All right, sorry, and he did a brilliant job with Derby.
The one thing
he got him
right
into the
job with
playoffs.
Derby.
The one thing I will say in favour of Frank that you've not mentioned is the fine list that he put out. I don't know if you saw this, the list of fines, and he made it very clear.
Yeah.
So, if you're 1 minute late for training, it's like £1,000, and then it goes up by £500 a minute and things like
Work
that.
do that with me as well. But yeah, it is, and he's got a standard. He wants a code of conduct to be going through, and he wants one mission. And I think you know what? I think if he does well at Chelsea and they win things, because let's not forget, they will be kind of like having good cup runs, and they will be kind of picking up plenty of points in the Premier League. But I think he's destined for big things, Frank, because I think
England manager,
potentially, but I think that he may end up with a European job at some point.
And you're up.
Okay, so who has been the best of the best in 2019? I really struggled with this one because there's 2 players that I would go for straight away.
Sadio Mane.
Well, no, just in terms of on the field performance and trophy haul, I would go for Bernardo Silva. So obviously with City, he won the Community
What a shock,
Shield.
Joe.
Well, Community Shield, Carabao Cup, Premier League, FA Cup, and the Nations League with Portugal. That's a pretty good statistic. 5 trophies in one season.
There's only one that anyone cares about in that little line. It's only the Premier League.
Which is why,
maybe the FA Cup.
I've moved on to his teammate.
Okay.
And so I am nominating for Hero of the Year, Raheem Shaquille Sterling. Right? Not just for his performances for England and Man City. I mean, we always remember that hat-trick for England, especially coming off the back of a World Cup last year when everyone goes, he's not scoring. He's had an amazing season in terms of his goal haul and his work rate, but also it's the work that he's done off the pitch, and he's become a symbol.
Is that when he assaulted Joe Gomez?
I'll get onto that in a second. Right? His stance against the racist undertones in certain areas of the press is the way he handled that as well. He did the simple comparison with Phil Foden had bought his mum a house, and some of the papers had praised him, and there was a similar story about a young black player doing the same thing, and it was like, where's his money going? What's he spending on? Raheem Sterling's been criticised for flying with EasyJet. He's been criticised for flying on a private jet. He's been criticised for buying watches and sports cars. He's been criticised for shopping in Poundland. It just seemed to be that there was criticism everywhere. Also, we had the thing with the tattoo the year before as well. He's conducted himself really well. So well, in fact, that Raheem Sterling managed to win something that no other footballer got in 2019. And that is a Blue Peter Gold badge.
I was going to say a blankety blank checkbook and pen.
Even bigger than that. Now, of course, you mentioned the Joe Gomez incident.
Disgraceful.
Right. Well, you know what? That for me is something there, because that shows Raheem Sterling carrying on the proudest of English traditions in short man syndrome, right? In picking a fight with somebody you have no right to go into. Now, the other thing is,
especially after the guy had picked you up on the pitch.
So basically, they have a fight in the school canteen, and we all saw the pictures the next day, the scar of Joe Gomez. Now, contrary to the stories, he wasn't punched. That scar that Joe Gomez got, I don't know if you know this. You know how that was caused? It wasn't with the tray with
by Raheem's manicured nails.
No, it was by Raheem's jewellery.
Really?
Yeah, that's what actually scratched his forehead. So I did one of his bracelets.
I ain't no fool.
So Raheem Sterling, the Mr. T, of the Premier League is my nomination
Wow,
for
right.
Hero of the Year.
You might
I'm
struggle
going
with
to
that one.
start writing the ants next to the Hero of the Year bit here, Joe. So you need to pull it out of the bag if you're going to come up with a better suggestion than Raheem Sterling.
I was going to go with Marcus Rashford, but I don't think he's going to win. So last minute, I'm going to go with.
Hang on. I want to hear the
I'm gonna go with,
justification for Marcus
Callum-
Rashford.
Callum
Because he
Haynes.
scored slightly more goals than he has in previous seasons.
Marcus
Is
Rashford.
that the reason?
Marcus Rashford's class.
Marcus Rashford, because at Halloween he was driving around in the car giving 20 quid notes to kids that were out
Did you do
trick-or-treating.
that?
I remember
Who's your
my-
nomination, Joe? Who's your
My
nomination?
my hero, a lad called Callum Haynes. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
No.
The
someone
Tottenham
like
ball boy who helped
yeah.
Jose Mourinho's side pick up the vital goal to help them win. I think not just about what he did, but for a hero, I think it is a lot of things, and it's the package of the hero. That ball boy just was there for just doing his normal day, his normal working day, which was to lob balls to players whilst they went out the pitch. But little did he know that the moment would come for him to step up to the mark, and that's what a hero has to do. He has to step up, guys.
And do his job.
I feel
And
like
do
it's
what
his
Tottenham pay him
storytelling.
for.
Oh yeah, but do his job to the best of his ability, and he knew that he could make a difference in that game.
That's flaky as.
So what he did
anything.
was,
Can we
is he
put music
stepped
under
up.
this?
Yours is Frank Lampard who made Chelsea look all right. That's what he has
Well,
to
he
do.
never made him look all right, did he?
So he steps up to the mark. He becomes part of the game, part of the flow of play, to the point that it leads to a Tottenham goal. And then what does a hero do? He has his rewards. He's gone round to the Tottenham players. He's been part of the dressing room. Jose Mourinho has given him this hero mantle, and he is probably the most famous ball boy in sort of the Premier League or in the UK.
He must have been fairly intimidated because previously, wasn't it Mourinho had a go at a ball boy
Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
Hazard used to kick them.
I think it's a better shout than Marcus Rashford. It's a brave attempt, but I think ball boys will be. I think you've peaked too soon. Ball boys will be a 2020 thing because they're coming into fashion at the moment. You've got Jose Mourinho praising them.
Best ball boy
You've
of the
got
year.
Duncan Ferguson hugging them. So I think that'll be a next year trend. So, and I think this season particularly, racism or anti-racism, I should say, needs a voice, and Raheem Sterling is that voice. So I think there is no other winner
Fair
than
play.
Raheem Sterling at McGinley.
Come
Gets
on,
his
off the
first
mark.
point on the board. Right, next category is the Roy Keane Award. So this is the individual that you'd like to see on the receiving end of a very special Roy Keane tackle. And this one, you can go first, Steve.
So I have two. So I'm gonna let you kind of pick for me because I'm
The worst one.
kind of So my first one is the whole of Serie A after the news that actually broke yesterday. I think that
Or a couple of weeks ago, because you won't be listening to this podcast at the day it's being recorded. But
yeah, that as well. But the news that of the artwork that has been done by no disrespect to the artist whose name has escaped me for the time being. But I just think that when it comes to kind of racism, equality, and welfare of players that have moved to Italy or from Italy, they just do not have a clue on what is acceptable and what is beyond the realms of just highly offensive. And I think in light of the recent image that come out that had the chimpanzees on with the colours that are on, I think that is an absolute disgrace. And I think it is a league that is littered with fans, racially abusing other players from other teams in there, where CEOs come out and say, well, I never heard that, or it's been blown up out of proportion, or it's been misunderstood,
or it's a sign of respect.
or it's a sign
was
of
one
respect.
of the accusations
And
booze towards a black player. Was a
inherently,
sign of respect.
as a collective, if you're a team owner, whether you're the press over there with the recent Black Friday headline that had Chris Smalling and Romelu Lukaku on it, and now this artwork that's come out, and I just think I seen the artwork recently, and it was the final straw for me with that league, and I just think incredibly offended by it all. And I think that the players that are plying the trade in that league and doing extremely well in that league, I think don't deserve treatment like that. And I am outraged by it, like I say, and I think Serie A as a whole needs the Roy Keane tackle.
I think it's a really strange scenario because surely Serie A haven't gone out and deliberately made this connection and gone, this is something that we like, the connection between having pictures of apes and racism, that they can't have consciously made that decision. And this is an artist who works with,
and they've said that they're going to keep the
artwork,
pictures up on the wall, haven't they?
it's insane. It's like one of those ones you can't quite work out what's going on in your head.
If you're inherently racist and you can't see the things that you do are as offensive as that, that's a massive problem. And I think there's a huge amount of re-education that needs to be put in into that country. And don't get me wrong, they are not the only one, because if you go into kind of like what the England players had in Bulgaria and in Kosovo as well, I think to a lesser extent, it's something that needs eradicating unless people start coming down really hard on Serie A and the clubs in it and banning press from coming to, like, say, for example, if they wouldn't be allowed into a Premier League ground for the Champions League tie or Europa League tie. Unless we start putting sanctions on teams and docking them points and having an impact on where they finish in the league, it's not gonna change. So that was one of them, and the other one was Duncan Ferguson for the antics in the game at Old Trafford when I think he ruined a young boy who's come into this country to try and ply his trade, and I think what he did to Moise Kean was absolutely unforgivable in his quest to show that he was a big hard man and he won't take any kind of messing on the pitch. And so it's one. I'll let you decide, Jim.
Well, I think it's very difficult to ignore the Serie A.
I think also as well, like, if one man's going to survive a Roy Keane tackle, it's going to be Duncan Ferguson as well. So it's a waste of a tackle.
This is very true. But to be honest with you, Steve, you've already got 2 points in the bag. If I give you the Keano's Tackle Award, then that's pretty much the competition over.
Well, so what? I've won it early.
For the benefit of keeping it interesting, we need either Ant or Joe to pull this out of the bag. So Joe, get pulling.
Ashley Young. Give me the point. Let's move on. No,
doesn't matter if he's actually tackled or not either, does it? Because he's going to fall over.
Yes,
in a dramatic style.
I do think that if Keane was playing with Young, and I'll throw in maybe Phil Jones in there, and players that aren't up to the Manchester United scratch of the past, where Keane would have been playing and would have expected high standards, then they probably would have been on the receiving end of a tackle, maybe in training. So these guys count themselves lucky they weren't playing for Manchester United 15 years ago. I say these guys with a bit of have a laugh about it, but they are players that you scratch your head and you wonder how have they still got contracts at Manchester United. So if there was any way of me feeling a bit better about that, it was to see these players who are earning a living from my club on a very high money getting a big old tackle by Roy Keane, who I'm sure still scratches his head about why they might be at the club as well. So
is he still club captain, Ashley Young?
Club captain, yeah. So when he's on the pitch, he will play as captain for United, which is again crazy. Maguire covering for him when he's not. So yeah, give him a good old Roy Keane tackle, please.
And
I'm going to nominate someone or something that's already been nominated today, and in fact won something as well, because to nominate one person to be on the end of a Roy Keane-esque tackle, it's going to be one location, and whoever happens to be in that location at that time. So my nomination is Stockley Park, and here's what I'm putting forward. I just like once to let Roy Keane loose in that control room. We kill the power, open the door, throw him in, lock the door for 5 minutes, let him out again. Nobody ever talks about what happened or who died, but I can tell you this, VAR would be sorted afterwards. And as it's Christmas as well, why not we make it pay-per-view? Right? And all the money goes to charity. There we go. You just hold him out there, don't feed him for a couple of hours, throw him in, and honest to God, that would sort VAR.
I think it's a great shout, and I love the idea that Roy Keane off camera would be more aggressive than he is on camera, because I'm convinced when you watch Monday Night Football that it's going to break into a brawl at any moment in the Sky TV studio. So for the sake of the competition, and I think Serie A deserves more than a Roy Keane tackle as well.
Don't do it to me, Jim.
They need something more
go
significant.
away.
To me, Jim.
Yeah.
So you just tell me to go away? Yeah. It's hard to go away, isn't it, when we're doing a podcast? What do you want me to do?
The door's over there.
Ant's having a storming second half. He's getting his
come on.
second
This is
point.
like Istanbul in 2005.
Oh, nice one, mate. That brings us on.
VAR gets the Keano tackle. Right. Last one, this one. The award that could decide it. Joe could equalise, Steve could nick it, Ant could nick it.
I'm not getting
The
that.
best moment of 2019, please. And Joe, it's your turn to go first.
Right, well, I'm only going to go for one, and you might outshot me in your ones but just for a United fan, it was the best moment in 2019, and there's no looking past it. It was our comeback against PSG. And it all built up to a Marcus Rashford last-minute penalty. VAR so helpful in that in a way. So let's not slide tackle them. But it was a big game for Solskjaer. His first sort of Champions League run out against Paris Saint-Germain didn't go too well. They pick up the win at Old Trafford. There was celebrations from Di Maria. There was all sorts of, is this where the cookie crumbles? Is this where United fall down? And then we went away to PSG. And we scored 2 quick goals. Lukaku actually playing like a striker for a change. He brings on the likes of Greenwood and Chong, young kids, onto the pitch for the final 5 minutes to see what they can muster up. And a penalty falls United's way. They score it and they get through to the next round. So that penalty moment for me was moment of the year, the away win in the Champions League.
I'm amazed about that. Joe has got his laptop open reading all this, and his preparation for this was a load of Man United answers that are flaky as anything. I mean, that is not worthy of the award, mate. Let me tell you.
And I say, when you see my laptop, read that what that says there. Do you think I've got preparation? It says PSG away in the Champions League. That's all it says.
Does that mean you couldn't remember the 3 letters PSG?
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't remember the team name. I would be amazed if Jim gives you that. I'm going to be honest.
Only Joe would be upset by the accusation that he's done some preparation.
Yeah, well, I mean, what would you go for as a United fan then for your moment of the year? I'm not going to go for when Liverpool came back.
I tell you what I'd go for as my
go.
moment of the year as a Man United fan is going to be 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds on New Year's Eve because the year's over.
Oh,
hey, nice.
What a bit of a laugh.
I like it.
Just beat
There is an
2-1 in
element
a
with
Manchester
the PSG
derby.
game, which was a dramatic night for Manchester United, and it was an incredible performance. But at the same time, that was the last good thing that happened to
Went
Manchester
downhill
United.
after that. That's why it's moment of the
And
year.
it kind of like
That's why it's
tailed
moment of the
away,
year.
and that caused Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to get the contract, which maybe he shouldn't have got. So there's a little tinge of regret, surely, about that result as well.
No, I love it. Love it.
Are you hugging the teddy bear?
I'm hugging a hot water bottle. I've got
He's
a bad back.
Right, and moment of the year, please.
I'm going to take you to the actual moment. The exact moment.
Should we close our eyes?
Close your eyes.
All right, close
Okay.
our eyes.
So it's a warm
Who's touching me?
summer's evening, and we're going back to 9:28 p.m. on the 6th of May, 2019.
Company.
We're at the Etihad. It's the penultimate game of the season. Leicester City on their way to becoming the team that we've seen them in the Premier League this season with a really mean defence. It's really tense. Nothing's happening. Even with all the attacking talent that they've got, City cannot break them down. And once again, Sergio Aguero makes history. But this time, it's not about what Sergio did. It's about what he said 73 minutes into that game. Aymeric Laporte plays the ball square to City captain Vincent Kompany. He's 257 yards out from goal. Vinny takes one touch, looks like he's going to shoot, and then Aguero shouts those 5 words that have become an instant legend, jumpers and T-shirts. No, Vinny, no, don't shoot. All the drama of a Shakespearean play. He doesn't shoot. Instead, he takes one more touch, looks up, he sees there's nothing on, there's no pass option. But nobody's closing him down. Then he hits the ball with the power of someone's dad playing with the under-7s team. Top bins, right in there. A little bit of swerve, a little bit of curve. Ball recorded at 137 miles an hour.
It's a passionate argument and a good story, but 257 yards from goal.
It felt like that. It was. I'm just elaborating a little bit for the drama. You had your eyes closed.
Football pitch is 100 yards long.
The size of the goal on
some of them are.
It was on the training pitch.
The last time Vinnie Jones scored a goal outside the box
Vinnie
was
Jones?
Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Kompany.
He's only been gone 6 months. He's forgotten his name.
That's football.
It's a training pitch named after it.
That's the training pitch he was on when he took the shot.
Exactly. Last time Kompany scored. I mean, he scored a lot of great goals. From most of them have been with his head. The last time he actually scored a goal from outside the box was playing for Hamburg in 2007. So that's how unexpected that goal was. And that set it up, brought us into that last game with everything in our hands, and ultimately led to a season where we won it by a point.
Steve, you've got it in the bag.
Okay.
What's your moment of 2019?
So, I think, as a Liverpool fan, winning the Champions League was obviously incredible. And to win it for the 6 times, maybe in one day, you might feel what that's like, to win the biggest prize in club football in the world. So we won it 6 times, but it was the game before the final for me that is the moment of the year. So Liverpool, I've played in the new camp the week before and been beaten 3-0. Messi on fire. It wasn't a 3-0 game. We were very unlucky to be beaten 3-0. But it was all to play for at Anfield. So come into Anfield, Messi, Suarez, etc., rock in, thinking we've got this in the bag and we'll score to make sure that we go through. And what we seen from some of the greatest players in world football was a complete mental collapse. And I think we see an irresistible Liverpool team who were bright, aggressive, inventive, and with a will that they weren't going to be beaten after conceding 3 goals in the Nou Camp, and that they were actually going to make their way to the final in Madrid at the Wonderlic Metropolitano on the 1st of June. And I think to put in that display against arguably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world at the time, and come away with a 4-0 victory and a clean sheet was nothing short of incredible. And I think it was arguably one of the greatest Champions League nights in history for any neutral fan, or indeed any Liverpool fan. So for me, I think Liverpool 4, Barcelona 0 at Anfield in May was the moment of the year.
When you say arguably, is the argument being conducted by a drunk man in a Scouse boozer?
No, not at all. I think, even if you took the City goggles off and the blue suit, I think you'd say fair play to Liverpool there. They've had no Salah in the team on the night. Firmino was on the bench, and they've gone in. Origi scored 2, Wijnaldum scored 2, and they've just Trent Alexander-Arnold on the corner for the 4th goal where he's took it quickly. Everything there, it was just magical. And I think we have plenty of nights like that. We're quite fortunate in that respect that there is a bit of a mystique about us in that competition, but I think to kind of do that to Barcelona, and the documentary that's coming out on Amazon showing how Jordi Alba crying in the dressing room at half-time, and the shell shock across the whole squad as they sat in the dressing room in Anfield after the game, I think for me, undoubtedly moment of the year.
So the issue I have here is Steve has 2 points, Ant's got 2 points, Joe's got 1 point. So if I give you this, Steve, you've win.
What's the problem with me winning?
You're only.
It's a bit mean, to be honest. You're just picking on someone for crying.
I don't know why I did this podcast. I don't know why I did this podcast. I'm sat here right now going, why did I do this podcast?
Why did you
As a
support
United fan, there was nothing worse than what I've just been through for the last hour. You're going over how great your clubs are. Your 2 moments were really good. Fair play. I'm sat here celebrating a Champions League away win. So we got no penalty. From a penalty.
The trouble with, if I give it to Steve as well, is he's just proved how unbearable his lot are when they win anything. So if he wins this competition.
You can't, but in terms of great goal by Vinny Company, and certainly as a Liverpool fan, that was like a dagger in the heart when that happened, because we thought we were on for the 0-0 and we're winning the league on goal difference or by a point, whatever it was. And you're not even in a conversation, Joe.
Give it to Rashford.
Getting a penalty against PSG and winning 3-2 in the last minute just because OGS is in
the thing is that as a Liverpool fan, I understand your desperation to win something. So I'm happy to
we're
be
European
the bigger
champions,
man.
mate.
Yeah. All right. So you don't want the Premier League then?
Well, I think we're in a good position to win it.
Yeah.
But we shall see. It's still a lot of games to go, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. What was that word you just used? Complete mental collapse?
Well, Barcelona had a complete mental collapse, yeah. Whatever way you look at it, from Germany, from France, from Portugal, from Spain, if you're not a Barcelona fan, that was extremely satisfying.
I think it's very difficult to see past. I think it's the kind of moment that football fans live for. And if you're not a Liverpool fan, you might not have enjoyed it as a neutral quite as much as you think you did, Steve.
Look at Joe. Joe's getting it tattooed.
I'm going to take Jim to Anfield because this guy suffers.
Please,
but I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you very much, my friend.
Right, so Steve has the point. That's 3 to Steve, 2 to Ant, 1 to Joe. Steve McNaughton is our winner of the Football Social Daily 2019 awards. Before we go, boys, I want very quickly a prediction for 2020 from you. When we come back and do this next year, you'll get an extra point if your prediction is bang on.
We've all got to be here first.
It's a big ask, isn't it? So you can go first as you're the winner, Steve. Winner's honour. You can make your prediction for 2019.
My prediction for 2020.
2020.
Sorry to correct
Still
the
don't
host.
believe it's 2020. If it's not flying cars, I'm not interested.
And I am actually quite sad about this, and you won't like this.
Well, I think I know what you're going to say. I think it's completely opposite to what I'm going to say.
Well, fucking hell, it's been like that the whole podcast. I know. I think that... I apologise because I realise I've said the F word 3 times today. Right. So Jim's going to have a job editing it. But, my prediction is Pep that goes at the end of the season and there's a rebuild starts at Man City. Because I think legendary team, legendary squad, one of the best coaches in world football. But I think it feels like the cycle has come to an end. And I think with Man City having the class they are and the size of the club and the ambition that they've got, I just think they'll go again. And it'll be kind of Man City, 2.0 or 3.0, depending on, and I think that's what'll happen. And I think, when the time does come for Pep to, to leave the Premiership, like I've said many times on the podcast, we'll be worse off for it. because he's been an absolute breath of fresh air. You know, him and Jurgen have certainly transformed football in this country for the better. And, you know, I would wish him well, but it just feels to me like the end is in sight. And it'd be interesting to see who gets appointed next and the type of players that they sign, because they'll go big in summer.
I think it's a fair prediction, that. Joe, your prediction for 2020?
My prediction, although it pains me to say it, and it's kind of in the build-up to your Pep Guardiola might leave.
It involves Marcus Rashford scoring more goals.
Sadly, it doesn't.
Spot.
I think City might go all the way in the Champions League this year.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I think City might go all the way in the Champions League this year, and they might just win it. Now, I say just because obviously I want to fall back on this statement if it's completely incorrect. But there's something about this season, and there's something about Pep, and yes, he might leave, and the two things might work hand in hand. He might win the Champions League, and then he might bow out. But there's something about City this year. I think they're going to have a very rough ride. Obviously, Madrid next in the Champions League.
They could beat Real Madrid.
They could beat Real Madrid, and hopefully then you never know. They could go on a run, and there's just something, because I feel like they've wanted it so much, and they've just been so. There's something about their desires this season. It doesn't seem like they want it as much, and that just might help them float the way to the top and into a final.
There's a focus shift almost away from the Premier League towards something
there is.
else.
And that's what I'm going to go with a predict. City will win the Champions League 2020.
Mate, I really hope they do, because I bought this blue suit 5 years ago just for that occasion, and I'm getting too fat for it now. In terms of what you just said about the change of management, I don't think that's really a bold statement, because I pretty much guarantee that 12 months from now, 75% of Premier League managers will not be in the job that they're in. It's kind of worse odds than playing Russian roulette. And probably less pressure, well, slightly more pressure as well. But my prediction for next season is that the FA are going to reach the end of the 2019-20 season, and they'll conduct a root and branch review of the whole VAR system. They're going to have no other option because of the uproar that it's caused, the trauma. There is support for it in theory. The way it's been executed is not very good. However, I think what they're going to do is they're going to decide a couple of things. First of all, they're going to decide that actually the system itself works pretty well. They maybe just need slightly more high-definition cameras, so when they zoom in and see things. They need to be a little clearer on the rules.
Cameras that are more accurate than 3 centimetres, I think, is the current definition.
Yeah.
On an offside call.
I think that they need to improve those. They need to improve the rules and the understanding of what the rules around handball and offside are. But most importantly, they need to listen to the feedback from the fans, the match-going fans especially, and provide them with a better experience. However, my prediction is that they're going to decide to, in the interest of making it more transparent and opening it up, they're going to turn it into a voting system using a premium rate text number for the match-going fans to decide. Was it offside? Was it on? Like they do on the X Factor, just to make more money.
That would be great news for Manchester United, Joe.
Yes,
With the fan base, having a VAR based on voting. That could be
They've
your
only got
way
half
back
of
into the big time.
They've only got half of the ones left now, haven't they?
Right, that is it for the Football Social Daily 2019 Awards. Thank you very much for listening, as you have done throughout 2019. Make sure you continue to listen in 2020, because we will be here every single day giving you the latest Premier League news and views. Steve, our champion, thank you very much and congratulations.
Nice one. Thank you,
Joe and
gentlemen.
Anne, thank you very much
Been
for
an
playing
absolute
as
pleasure.
I won the second half.
Have a great Christmas and a great New Year.